Hello and thank you for joining us. I'm Cody Proctor. This is the KREM 2 News Week in Review, where each weekend we bring you the headlines from the past week here in the Inland Northwest. Let's get started with one of the biggest news stories of the past few days.
Well, Spokane police say one person is dead after a deadly stabbing took place off of North Division. Spokane Police Department reports just before 1 p.m. on Sunday afternoon, a stabbing killed one person, bringing a large police presence to the area through the evening. Officials say this happened near the Apple Tree Inn. I asked the motel's front staff, and they say the incident did happen inside the hotel. This is not the first time the motel has seen crime. In 2020, KREM 2 News reported 3 different incidents where police responded to the Apple Tree Inn. An employee from a neighboring business tells me this area is a hub for illegal activity. They say from SWAT teams to K9 units and police drones. They say they have seen a fair share of crime. This is still an active investigation. I'm reporting in North Spokane. Regan Gallo, KREM 2 News.
I'm here near the intersection of Elm and Carlisle, right next to Audubon Elementary School. Now, they say that the shooting happened right here close to this alley near the big shed right here behind me. I'm actually going to step off screen so you can see exactly what I'm seeing, because as you can see, there are still remnants from the situation, like cut down caution tape, as well as the broken fence in front of that shed.
So it's been crazy night.
Crazy. That's how Michael Walsborn describes his Wednesday morning after one of the people Spokane police believe is connected to the deadly stabbing at the Apple Tree Inn on Sunday was shot and killed by police.
I get there and they got 2 blocks completely blocked off. They wouldn't let me in my house.
Right behind Walsborn's back shed.
He went and hid in my garage, and I was like, I don't know why he's there, but I guess they flashbanged my garage and had a standoff and killed him.
Spokane police say the situation started around 11 p.m. last night when detectives believed one of the suspects involved in Sunday's deadly stabbing was staying somewhere in the area. When trying to bring the suspect into custody, police got additional information saying he appeared to have a gun. Hours after multiple agencies arrived on scene to help contact the man, he tried to run away, jumping through neighbors' yards here in the area before running into law enforcement, carrying what investigators say looked like a long gun.
This isn't something that happens normally in our neighborhood, on our side of town.
Walsborn's neighbor Christian Jimenez says he saw everything happen just feet away from his own backyard.
Around like 1:30ish, I had noticed from my kitchen window that kind of faces the alley a bit. I saw red and blue lights, and I heard, I want to say at least 5-6 shots ring out, and I thought, this isn't going to end well.
Police say they began to perform life-saving measures, but the man died on scene. The stretch of Carlisle between Elm and Oak was blocked off for most of the morning while investigators combed through the area. The officers involved in the shooting have been placed on administrative leave. The Spokane Independent Investigation Response Team will be taking over the investigation from here on out. SPD says that the names of the officers involved will be revealed in the coming days. In Spokane, Christian Garza, KREM 2 News.
33-year-old Alyssa Bradburn sat in front of a jury for the first time, even seen smiling multiple times throughout the day. 2 years ago, court documents say Bradburn called 911 on herself right after allegedly shooting and killing her father, Timothy Bradburn. Today, the jury heard opening statements from both the prosecuting and defense attorneys.
She shot him twice in the chest, once in the arm, and once in the forehead, just to make absolutely sure he was dead. Timothy Bradburn would be declared deceased at the scene.
She has made no attempts to obscure or hide her actions. In fact, she called 911 immediately after the incident occurred, and then she cooperated fully and voluntarily with the investigation.
Several witnesses took the stand today, and the courtroom listened to the initial 911 phone call.
So what started this all tonight?
You came home from Hawaii.
You came home from Hawaii and that's why you shot him?
Witness testimonies allege that Bradburn intentionally left her journal at the scene for authorities. In it, she reportedly describes the plans she made to kill her father. Court documents also noted Bradburn allegedly planned the shooting weeks in advance, and they say she even practiced shooting at a local range. Before his death, Timothy Bradburn arrived home from the airport. Investigators say he was living in Hawaii for several months. Alyssa reportedly told authorities her father was emotionally abusive towards her. She said he was also violent towards her dogs, and she claimed when she was younger, he sexually assaulted her. Both attorneys today say they anticipate closing statements for trial could be early next week. Alyssa and her brother are expected to take the stand before end of trial. Reporting in Spokane, Regan Gallo, KREM 2 News.
As we go to break, here's a check of your weekend forecast. Welcome back to the KREM 2 News Week in Review. It's been a busy week across the inland Northwest, so let's catch you up on some of the news you might have missed.
Right now, at least 4 U.S. cities and counties have already passed ordinance restricting private detention facilities, and several others are considering similar action. In 2018, Tacoma passed an ordinance prohibiting correctional and detention facilities in several industrial and residential zones. In 2020, Los Angeles approved an interim ban on private detention centers, and earlier this month, city leaders moved to make that ban permanent. Just weeks ago, Howard County in Maryland passed emergency legislation blocking private companies from getting permits for detention centers. And in January, Kansas City approved a 5-year ban on non-municipal detention facilities after reports that ICE planned to use a local warehouse. And these communities in Missouri and Florida are still weighing their options. Leaders in these communities are considering moratoriums or resolutions opposing expansion. But in 2022, a Ninth Circuit court ruling says states can't block federal immigration detention facilities. The court struck down California's statewide ban on private ICE facilities, saying it violates the Supremacy Clause because it interfered with federal immigration operations. That's why cities and counties are now trying smaller measures like zoning or building rules instead of total bans, hoping those will hold up in court. Now, I also asked the Department of Homeland Security if it has plans for any detention facilities in the city of Spokane. I'll share their response once we receive it. Amanda Rowley, KREM 2 News.
The first hot-button issue during Monday night's Spokane City Council meeting was allocating $100,000 to the Spokane Immigrant Rights Coalition, also known as CIRC's, Community Justice Fund. The money will assist families who may have a member detained by immigration enforcement. It can go towards housing, health care, or transportation, something supported by Council member Zach Sapone.
I'm glad that we can find some funds to try to pay to help what's happening to people in our community to right a wrong.
Council voted in favor of the funding in a 6-1 vote, with Councilmember Michael Cathcart voting against it, saying more should have been done to decide where the money is going.
I would like to see a program that has real sidebars, that has real accountability, that is truly the product of a process that is meaningful and not hand-selected.
Council members also had a first reading on an ordinance to ban KREM, as well as an immigration enforcement-free zone. This aims to stop federal agents from using city property such as parking lots for surveillance or staging without a warrant. Several agenda items were deferred to next week's meeting, including a change in the day Council holds their meetings from Monday to Wednesday. A proposed amendment from Council members Kitty Klitsky and Zach Sapone would also change how the public can comment during meetings. If passed, the comment portion of the meeting would be a single block at the meeting. Each would get 5 minutes to speak on any issues on the agenda, rather than 3 minutes per item, as it is currently. Connor McAvoy, KREM 2 News.
One thing that we are learning from this police report right here is that Spokane police cited the driver for second-degree negligent driving for driving under a bridge clearly marked and impassable by the double-decker bus he was driving.
That same report also states the driver, identified as 65-year-old Wayne Morgan, was not impaired at the time of the crash. The report also says Wayne told responding Spokane police officers he was following the map and GPS provided by Spokane Transit Authority on his route when the crash happened. STA Chief Operations Officer Brandon Rapez-Betty says they've identified some preliminary issues but couldn't comment what they are.
I am aware of the photograph that has floated around with the images on that, and so we are evaluating and assessing the programming that happened, but the results of that are a product of the investigation, so that'll come out once that's complete.
All of STA's double-decker buses were pulled from service. They're now back out on the roads as of this weekend on select routes between Cheney and Spokane with new safety measures, including safety stops before viaducts. As for the software in the buses, Rapez-Betty says those are still off at this time. In the aftermath of the crash, STA audited all of the bridges their buses go under.
And at that time, we found that the viaduct posted limits, the height restrictions, were in conflict with the posted height of the bus.
STA pulled some of their buses from the routes going under the conflicting viaducts. One of the viaducts that changed was the Stevens Street Viaduct, which the city says dropped in clearance after the recent grind and overlay surface project. They also admitted they did not let STA know about the change.
Spokane Transit Authority expects to wrap up the investigation within the next couple of weeks. As for the bus driver, they're still on administrative leave. In downtown Spokane, Cody Proctor, KREM 2 News.
Thanks for joining KREM 2 News this weekend. I'm Cody Proctor. Right now, we're taking a look back at some of the news stories from the past week in this edition of the KREM 2 News Week in Review.
A jury found several state social service agencies and Excelsior Youth Center here in Spokane were legally negligent regarding their professional obligations, which directly resulted in personal injuries. The civil case stems from 1995 when the victim claims he was physically, sexually, and psychologically abused during his time at Excelsior Youth Center, which is a nonprofit private agency. He also claims the center knew about the abuse and no one did anything about it. The case officially went to trial in January with a grand jury ruling just a couple of weeks ago that both the state and center were liable for negligence that resulted in emotional distress. The jury also concluded that although the defendants did inflict emotional distress through negligence, it was not a legal cause of the victim's physical injuries. The victim's attorneys say at the end of the day, this is a win not just for his client, but for others out there in the same position.
The only way institutions and places of power change their policies and procedures and practices is when they're held accountable.
Normal people found that the state did fall below its standard of care. It was negligent in the way that it, handled its custody of the plaintiff. It should have acted differently and protected him from these dangers, and therefore they held him accountable.
At the end of the trial, the jury awarded the victim a total of $250,000 to compensate him for injuries caused. Additionally, the victim's attorneys told me that he settled with Excelsior Youth Center before the trial started for $2 million in restitution. In Spokane, Christian Garza, KREM 2 News.
Gerald Manuel Jr., someone known to Spokane police as a high utilizer or someone that had repeat emergency or social service calls on without making any progress. Now, Gerald has changed his life and is breaking the cycle of crisis.
Look at it and remind myself, yeah, I do need to take one day at a time.
Several bracelets sit on the wrists of Gerald Manuel Jr., a daily reminder to pace himself day to day.
It was exhausting and tiring just trying to, find my next fix and high.
He tells me after facing a drug addiction since he was 14 years old, now at 35, he says he's finally making a change to his life.
Battling my addiction, I didn't believe that I, lost my morals and values because I was still carried my, values with selfless, integrity, courtesy.
Since last October, after facing 3 warrants, police tell me Gerald has been identified as a high utilizer. Now, Gerald says he is 128 days sober
in stable housing, hopes to find a job soon, and he has reconnected with his family and children.
It feels good because, besides me not knowing myself, they didn't know me as well.
The Spokane Police Department says about 10 to 20 individuals make up nearly half of all emergency calls.
Labeling the high utilizers or the downtown 10 are kind of the ones that were cast aside or forgotten, the ones that many people said couldn't be helped or they were beyond services. They had tried every option and had burned many bridges. And with this program, we are intensively focusing on that group.
But with targeted support, many are finally turning their lives around.
Seeing those successes has really breathed new life into a lot of the officers, and they're excited. They're out there trying to help.
And for those like Gerald, as he makes strides in his own journey, he still wants to give back.
I try to talk to them about asking when they're going to get into treatment or what they're doing. So I want to try to help them, get off the streets as well.
The High Utilizer Pilot Program will reach its end date in April. SPD tells me it's been so successful, they anticipate they will extend it. For now, I'm reporting in downtown Spokane, Regan Gallo, KREM 2 News.
Welcome back. Before we wrap up this edition of the KREM 2 News Week in Review, we want to remind you that you can get the latest newscasts and weather forecasts anytime on KREM 2 Plus. It's free to watch and download on Roku, Amazon Fire, and on Apple TV. Now, here's one more story before we go.
Well, 3 sheriff's deputies and 2 fire district firefighters were awarded the Idaho Medal of Honor for their courage and bravery for their response during the ambush attack on Canfield Mountain.
Some law enforcement right now, this is an active shooter zone. They're shot. PT3's down, PT1's down. Everybody shot up here.
That's the voice of Captain Fritz Wiedenhoff, a firefighter with the Northern Lakes Fire District who responded during the attack on Canfield Mountain. The department said Wiedenhoff warned other first responders an active shooter was on the mountain. I am told it was his heroic actions that saved more lives from being lost. Coeur d'Alene Battalion Chief John Morrison and Kootenai Battalion Chief Frank Harwood were shot and killed during the ambush attack that day.
What he demonstrated that day is no surprise to me. He is an outstanding individual, and the way he acted, like I said, I couldn't be more proud of what Fritz did that day.
Coeur d'Alene firefighter Dave Tisdall also received the Medal of Honor, along with 3 Kootenai County Sheriff's deputies, Harvey Ballman, Eric Brock, and Josh Orr. Kootenai County Sheriff Bob Norris says in a statement, it is an honor to work alongside the 3 deputies. Officials with Northern Lakes Fire District tell me the official award ceremony for the Idaho Medal of Honor will be on September 1st in Boise. I'm reporting in Hayden, Regan Gallo, KREM 2 News.
Thank you so much for spending a part of your weekend with us on the KREM 2 News Week in Review. Be sure to keep it here on KREM 2 for more news and weather updates. I'm Cody Proctor. Thanks for watching.